What's going on, people? Myke C-Town here with an episode of Out of My Element, where you guys get to pick the album that I review. And the winner of the poll for this video is Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. So this was a Patreon only poll, which means that only my Patreon members could add albums or vote on the albums. And yeah, I gotta give a special shout out to DJ Jazz Pants for continuously nominating this album, even though he never ever thought it was going to win. I didn't think this album was ever gonna win, but yeah, it did. And there's a few things to talk about here. So first off, there was a 5-way tie where each of the albums got the same percentage of votes. So I actually got to pick myself out of 5 different albums, and I just had to go with this one because I just had to. The other thing is, I'd actually heard some Miles Davis before. Some stuff I enjoyed, some stuff I really didn't like, so I wasn't super stoked on diving into Miles Davis's catalog. But the funny thing is, since getting more into jazz, I held off on listening to this album because I'd always planned on just doing an Out of My Element video for it, regardless of if it actually won a poll or not. I just hadn't got around to it until now. So yeah, I had to look up a few things with this album. I didn't realize that it was heralded as such an amazing masterpiece until I started diving into things. But the story is, he kind of assembled this cast of legendary jazz musicians and gave them this sort of skeleton for each song on this album, and then he just kind of let the musicians do their thing. But the cast of characters for this album is Julian Cannonball Adderley with alto sax. We have John Coltrane on tenor sax. We have Bill Evans on piano. We have Wynton Kelly on piano, but only on a few songs, I believe. We have Paul Chambers playing the bass, and we have Jimmy Cobb playing the drums. This album starts off with the song So What, and I immediately recognize that beginning part, that dun dun. And it's funny, like, the more that I listen to some of the more popular jazz albums, I realized that I'd either heard them on The Cosby Show before or on some skate video before, which is really weird. But I can't remember which one I heard this particular album from. But I think it's from a skate video. I think it might even be from an old stereo skate video, but I could be wrong. But at any rate, So What is the kind of jazz that I really like. The soulful, soaring trumpets, the piano that's playing just what's needed to provide a sufficient backdrop for those trumpet sounds to excel. And for that sax to come in and provide that ambiance and that punch, you know. Same with the drumming. You know, I love jazz drumming because it always sounds off time to me while being perfectly on time. And the drum work by Jimmy Cobb on this album is just stellar. The second song, Freddie, Freeloader, it kind of carries on where the first song left off. The tempo's fairly similar, still more mellow piano and drum work, but that sax is just killing it. And, you know, as I mentioned before, there's 2 people playing sax. You have Cannonball and you have Coltrane. Now, I don't know Coltrane or Cannonball sound enough to know which one is which. And I have no idea about the sonic differences between tenor and alto sax. Maybe I'll look it up after this, so there's no need for you guys to type a dissertation about it in the comments section. I'm sure plenty of you jazz experts know the ins and outs of tenor and alto and Coltrane and Cannonball. But for me, it doesn't really matter all that much. I just had a great time sitting back and just kind of listening to them go. It's some really sexy shit without being hokey. There's just so much soul going on in this song during what almost feels like a duel between the saxes and the trumpet. Like, it's really great. I especially like the way the song ended. The way it transitioned out just felt really good. I really love the song Blue and Green. I love how it gave the piano a bit more shine on that song, but the mood of this one is very mellow. It's sad sounding almost. I don't know the meaning or the theme behind this song that any of the musicians kind of had in mind when they were playing, but I really get a feeling of heartbreak with it. The song All Blues is the longest song on the album, clocking in at over 11 minutes long, and I love this one because of the attitude that the sax has on this song, especially at the kind of 4.5 minute mark. The fluttering really sucks you in, and I can almost see these guys playing, and I think I've mentioned that before when I've talked about jazz albums. You know, that's what I love the most about this adventure that I've kind of had with listening to jazz lately. You know, hearing these albums really brings you into this other world. Like, I've listened to plenty of live albums before, but nothing brings me into this world of visualizing live music. Nothing does that the way jazz does. And I'm really feeling that with this album, and especially with this song, All Blues. My favorite part is the part that's around the 9 minute and 20 second mark, where the sax is doing this kind of swell and the trumpet is being laid down over it. Like, it's just so awesome. Like Blue and Green, Flamenco Sketches is another almost sad ballad type song. Very somber sounding, maybe even more so than Blue and Green actually. Has these sad piano chords, and the trumpet sounds like it's weeping, you know, and there's such a feeling of loss with this song. I can't say if it's the loss of a loved one, a mate, I don't know, but it's definitely there for me, especially when that sax comes in. You know, the trumpet sounds like it's weeping, the sax sounds like it's moaning, you know, and it carries this somber mood throughout the song, and I feel like it's such a beautiful way to end this album. So yeah, this is an incredible album, and I'm so glad that it won the poll finally. I feel kind of weird though reviewing jazz albums, because jazz is a bit difficult to review, you know. So much of it is improvised and free flowing, and when you're talking about the way these songs sound, I feel like it's a lot easier to talk about the way the songs make you feel. It's a lot easier to review a hip-hop album and break apart, you know, the pieces there, or an indie rock album or anything else. But with jazz, I feel like so much of it is emotional. It's very, very, very strange. But like I was saying, so much of this stuff is improvised and free flowing, but the way the songs are laid out on this album, they feel like they have a strong sense of structure. And I'm sure a lot of jazz experts would disagree, because what the fuck do I know? But I genuinely feel like Bill Evans, the pianist on these songs, is kind of the backbone here. You know, his riffs are what seem to be the blueprint for these songs. It feels like everyone's just kind of building on top of what Bill is doing. And what these musicians are able to build on top of these blueprints is just brilliant. The flowing, the scaling, it's all just beautiful, man. And the recording of this album is also something that really needs to be paid attention to. Everything sounds clean and crisp while still giving you that kind of recorded live feeling, that warm feeling. And for an album that was recorded in the 50s, I'm just amazed at how perfect and natural it sounds. But overall, this is a fantastic album. It's such a fun listen. It's also a really relaxing listen. It's also a very sad listen. This album is really giving you a lot of different emotions. And again, it's brilliant, man. And I know this is heralded as a really important album due to its involvement in this shift of jazz from the more bouncy bebop style to the more free and kind of modal style. And a lot of folks say that this is the greatest jazz album ever made. They say that this is the standard of jazz albums after it. And I can definitely see that. You know, the smoothness, the passion, the musicality, the technicality of this album, they're all things that I could see albums after it really striving for. You know, every song has that kind of head bobbing feeling and that groove that come to mind when most people think of jazz, even if you hadn't actually heard this album yet. It's such a weird feeling, but I love this album. It's definitely one of my favorite jazz albums that I've heard, and it makes me want to dive more into Miles Davis's catalog, even though, as I'd said earlier, some of the Miles Davis stuff that I'd heard before wasn't really up my alley and it didn't really excite me, but this album really excited me. So I'm definitely going to be diving more into his catalog. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. Make sure you guys let me know what you guys think of this album down there in the comment section. And if you want to vote on the poll for the next video, the link is down there in the description section. And if you want to be someone that can actually add albums to the poll for the next Out of My Element video, make sure you become a patron. You can do it for as little as $1 a month. $1, one Skrilla, one ducat, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's gonna do it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. As usual, thank you for living, thank you for loving, thank you for being you, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, peace out, boy.